Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I really appreciate you being with me. I don't know if you've noticed, but I reached kind of a milestone for our viewership, and that is we now have 6,000 subscribers to my channel. Now, as I've said before, I know that's not viral, all right? I know of some people that have got 20, 30, 50, 100,000 or more subscribers. You know, not long ago, a cat, get this, a cat, 4 legs, furry, blah, 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 a cat had millions of subscribers. And I'm going, seriously? Maybe that speaks to human nature. Not too interested in substance. Just show me a funny kitty. It's funny on one side and it's really sad on the other. Okay. Well, just had to comment on that. But we really do appreciate the fact that you're with me here on this Monday morning. We are continuing our study of the Olivet Discourse. We are focused at the present time on Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following, demonstrating that this story of Matthew 25, 31 and following has nothing to do with a supposed end of time, end of the cosmos, resurrection of physical bodies, etc., etc. Now, there are a couple of things that I want to point out that I have mentioned many times in this video. And there, before beginning filming, I thought, okay, how do I approach this? How much time do I spend on this again? But it's really important. So, first of all, I want to establish a parallel between some given passages and Matthew chapter 25. To establish, number one, that they are parallel. Number two, that we have time constraints, time delimitations in two of those texts. And that since we have perfect parallels between Matthew 25, 31 and following and those other passages, since those other passages have very strict temporal delimitations in them, that means that Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following is also strictly delimited to a specific time period, and that's the first century. And here's what I mean. What do we have in Matthew chapter 25? Let's lay out our parameters. Let's lay out our constituent elements to see what Matthew chapter 25 was predicting. Matthew chapter 25, 31. When the Son of Man comes. Now, this terminology of the coming of the Son of Man is a very distinctive doctrine. And an awful lot of people try to say, well, the coming of the Son of Man refers to Jesus at his ascension going to the Father. Now, first of all, Daniel chapter 7 has Jesus coming to the Father from the perspective of the heavenly vision. In other words, Daniel says, I saw in the night vision one like unto the Son of Man, and he came before the Ancient of Days. Well, from the perspective of earth, he was leaving. From the perspective of heaven, he was coming. Two different, I hesitate to use the term, geographical perspectives, but those are important. So the great question is, what is the perspective of Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following? Well, the concept and the terminology of the gathering of the nations is, in the Old Testament, an earthly perspective. In the Old Testament, we have the gathering of the nations in Joel 2 and 3. We have the time of judgment of the nations. In Revelation chapter 6, we have the judgment of those who persecuted the saints, that judgment taking place on earth. So that's one thing that we have to consider when we examine Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following. Some believe that the reference to the coming of the Son of Man must refer to the ascension of Christ from Acts chapter 1. Well, if that's the case, ladies and gentlemen, N.T. Wright says this terminology of the coming of the Son of Man. Keith Matheson says the same thing. That we must view that as the ascension of Christ. That's obviously not true in Matthew 25 unless you're willing to say, unless you're willing to posit that at Christ's ascension, the judgment of every man took place. Did that take place? Look, if you're going to say that that the coming of the Son of Man in Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following is the ascension of Christ, then you're more of a preterist than I am. It clearly does not work. But let's look at some parallels. We have the coming of the Son of Man in his glory, with his angels, to sit on the throne of his glory. Then shall all nations be gathered before him. So, coming of the coming of the Son of Man with his angels in glory, in judgment. Now, look at Matthew chapter 16, 27 and 28. For the Son of Man will come. Well, identical terminology, identical thought. The Son of Man will come in the glory of the Father with his angels and shall reward every man according to his works. Okay? Matthew chapter 25, coming of the Son of Man with his angels in glory, in judgment. Matthew 16, 27, coming of the Son of Man with the angels in glory, in judgment of all men. Pardon me, Matthew 25, 31, obviously, the judgment of all men. Okay, we have perfect parallelism. But in Matthew chapter 16, 28, the Lord said, Verily I say unto you, there are some standing here which shall not taste of death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So here is this temporal delimitation. I think you would agree with me, although amazingly enough, there are some people who make the claim, did you know, we are told, I recently read it just recently, there are some people alive on earth today, some claim in Utah, alive on earth today that were standing there when Jesus spoke those words. Seriously, ladies and gentlemen, the lengths to which some people will go to maintain and defend their doctrines is absolutely astounding. This is one of the finest examples, or worst examples, if you please, of argumentum ad desperatum that you will ever hear. When I have heard that argument from people, I have said, okay, what's your evidence? Where are they? Show these people to us. Well, I don't know where they are, but Jesus said that some of the people would live to see his coming, and he hasn't come, therefore they must still be alive. Wow. Argumentum ad desperatum. So, once again, here is this temporal delimitation. We have every constituent element of Matthew 25, 31 and 32, same identical constituent elements found in Matthew 16, 27 and 28, and Matthew 16, 27 and 28 unequivocally, undeniably, explicitly puts the fulfillment of that coming with the angels in judgment of every man in that first century generation. Now look, I'm well aware of the fact. Lots of attempts have been made to make Matthew 16, 27, 28 fulfilled. Oh, well, that was at the transfiguration. No, it wasn't. Jesus said, some standing here will not die. That means the great majority of them would die before he came. But some of them would not die. Some of them would see his coming. Now, according to Mark chapter 8, the parallel passage, there was a great multitude present when Jesus spoke that. The transfiguration was 6 days later. Are we supposed to believe that the great majority of that great multitude died in that 6-day interim? That's ridiculous. It's facetious. It will not work. And thus, what we have is the perfect parallelism between Matthew 16, 27 and 28 and Matthew chapter 25, 31 and 32. Those constituent elements mesh perfectly. And Matthew 16, 27, 28 demands that event, the coming of the Son of Man with his angels in judgment, in the judgment of all men, took place in the first century. That very clearly was not the ascension. Again, let me reiterate this. If you're going to say the coming of the Son of Man of Matthew 16, 27, Matthew chapter 25, 31, if you're going to say that was at the ascension, then you're more of a preterist than full preterists are. Kind of backfires, doesn't it? Okay. Pardon me. Out of time for this morning. In tomorrow's morning musings, we'll look at another text or two that talks about the coming of the Son of Man that have temporal delimitations to them that demands that Matthew chapter 25, 31 and following was fulfilled in the first century. Now, today, Monday, is the very last day of our January 2022 very special book discount offer. For the rest of today, all right, U.S. orders only. You go to my website, donkpreston.com, BibleProphecy.com, and you order over $25 of material, you will get a 15% discount plus free shipping. Now, like I told you, unfortunately, our calculator has really messed up. And in some cases, it's been giving 25% discount. Okay, so we haven't contacted any of you and said, excuse me, can you give us a refund? No, we're not doing that. We're honoring that. But today's the last day of that. So take advantage of it. In the meantime, I will see you on the flip side.